I always thought the biggest fear in a relationship was losing the person you love. But now I know, the real nightmare is realizing that even when she's physically next to you, her heart and soul already belong to someone else. My name is Alex, and I lived with Diana for 4 years. We rented a small apartment downtown, made plans for the future, even talked about marriage. She always seemed honest, open. I never imagined how easily someone could look you straight in the eyes and lie. It all started with little things. She suddenly had more girls' nights out, kept her phone face down, and replied to texts later than usual. I convinced myself I was paranoid. But one evening, I came home earlier than expected. She wasn't there. In the morning she had said she'd work from home. I tried calling, but she didn't pick up. A few minutes later, she answered and said she was at the store buying groceries. Something felt wrong. I opened our shared family tracking app. And there it was. She wasn't near any store. She was at a park on the far side of town. The next time, I wanted to be sure. I told her I was going on a business trip, but stayed home. Around 11 p.m., I heard the front door. My heart pounded as I peeked into the hallway. She wasn't alone. A tall man walked in with her, comfortable as if it was his home. They laughed, poured wine in our kitchen, and sat on the couch where she and I had watched movies just the night before. I froze in the shadows, fists clenched, breath stuck in my chest. I saw everything. Heard everything. And I stayed silent. After a couple of hours, he left. She came to bed like nothing had happened, lying down next to me, unaware that I knew. That night, I didn't close my eyes once. I understood this was the end. The next day, I set up a hidden camera. When I watched the footage later, my worst fear came true. She brought him back. They laughed, kissed, moved around our apartment as if it was theirs. That evening, when she returned, I placed my phone in front of her and pressed play. Her face drained of color as the video unfolded. Shock. Silence. And then excuses. I felt lonely, I needed attention, it didn't mean anything. But betrayal always means something. She had given to someone else the very things that once belonged to us. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just packed a bag and walked out. Because sometimes silence is louder than any words. The truth is, betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It changes the way you see love, trust, and yourself. And once you've seen the truth, you can never unsee it. For years, I believed Emma and I had the kind of love people envied. We met in college, built a life together, and even talked about marriage. She was my home, my anchor, my safe place. At least, that's what I thought. It started small, late-night texts she never explained, laughter over messages I wasn't a part of, a new password on her phone for security reasons. I told myself I was overthinking. We'd been together too long for her to betray me. Or so I thought. One evening she told me she was having a sleepover at her best friend's place. I didn't doubt her until, while scrolling through social media, I saw her best friend posting pictures from a family dinner across town. Emma wasn't there. My stomach twisted, but I said nothing. I wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation. The following weekend, I decided to surprise her at work with coffee. But when I arrived, her co-workers told me she had left early, claiming she felt sick. Confused, I called her, but she didn't pick up. Minutes later, a text arrived, heading home, resting now. Something inside me snapped. Instead of going home, I drove to the new restaurant she had been mentioning constantly. And there she was. Sitting at a table by the window. Smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not alone, but with another man. His hand brushed hers across the table, and she didn't pull away. I froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I sat in my car across the street for nearly an hour, watching my world collapse through the glass. Every laugh, every touch between them was like a knife. I didn't confront her that night. I went home, waited, and when she finally returned, she kissed me and said she had slept all evening. I stared at her, at the woman I thought I knew, and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Over the next week, I collected proof. Messages left open on her laptop. Photos she didn't think I'd find. Even hotel receipts hidden in her email. Every discovery broke me a little more, but it also gave me clarity. Finally, one evening, I asked her to sit down. I told her I knew everything. She laughed at first, tried to deny it, but when I placed the screenshots and receipts on the table, her face went pale. Silence filled the room. Then came the excuses, the apologies, the begging. But betrayal doesn't vanish with words. Once trust is broken, it can never be whole again. I packed a bag that night. She cried, told me I was her everything, that she made a mistake. But love built on lies isn't love at all. Walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done. Yet in that moment, I realized something: losing someone who betrays you isn't really a loss, it's freedom. I thought secrets only lived in movies or books, not in the walls of my own home. For nearly 8 years, Daniel and I built a life together, one full of shared dreams, lazy Sundays, and promises whispered late at night. But promises can be fragile, and sometimes they shatter in silence. It started subtly. He began coming home later than usual, always with the same excuse: work's been crazy. At first, I believed him. He had a demanding job, and I wanted to be supportive. But the little things pile up: the sudden gym memberships, the dead phone batteries, the faint scent of perfume that wasn't mine. One Friday, he told me he was flying out for a 2-day business trip. He kissed me goodbye at the airport curb, briefcase in hand, suit pressed perfectly. I watched him walk inside, feeling the ache of missing him already. But later that evening, as I scrolled through my phone, I saw something I couldn't ignore: a tagged photo on social media. Daniel. At a bar. Smiling. Not hundreds of miles away on a business trip, but right here in town, with a woman I had never seen before. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, but I stayed silent. I needed proof. The next night, I drove past the hotel where the photo had been tagged. His car was in the lot. My hands shook as I waited, heart racing. And then I saw him, stepping out with her, his hand resting on the small of her back like it belonged there. I didn't confront him then. Instead, I went home and waited. When he returned the following day, suitcase in hand, he kissed me as if nothing had happened. He told me about meetings that never existed, about hotels he never stayed in. I smiled, nodded, and let him speak. That evening, I asked if he could show me some pictures from his trip. He hesitated for just a moment, but that moment was enough. I pulled up the photo on my phone and placed it on the table between us. His face went pale. The lies unraveled faster than he could patch them together. Excuses spilled out about stress, about temptation, about how it meant nothing. But I couldn't unsee the way he looked at her. It wasn't nothing. It was everything. I packed my bags quietly that night. He begged, cried, promised to change. But I knew better. Love can survive storms, but not betrayal. Betrayal leaves scars that never fade. As I walked out the door, I realized something important: sometimes the most painful truth is the one that finally sets you free. I always thought betrayal was something that happened to other people, not me. For almost 6 years, Emma and I built what I believed was a solid life together. We had a home, routines, inside jokes that only we understood. She was the person I trusted most. That trust blinded me, and I never saw the cracks forming until it was too late. It started with the small lies. A late meeting, a sudden girls' dinner, or the constant, almost obsessive way she kept her phone on silent. At first, I brushed it off. Work was stressful for her, and I didn't want to add more pressure. But the excuses began piling up, and I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut. One night, she claimed she was working late. I decided to surprise her by bringing dinner to her office. When I arrived, the building was dark. Security told me everyone had left hours earlier. My chest tightened, but I didn't want to believe it. I went home, and around midnight she walked in with a smile, spinning stories about overtime. That was the first real fracture. The next week, I noticed a charge on our shared bank account for a fancy restaurant we had never visited together. When I asked, she casually said it was a work dinner. But something in her eyes told me otherwise. That night, I checked the restaurant's tagged photos on social media. My stomach turned when I saw her in the background of a stranger's photo, not with coworkers, but with him. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I waited, watched, collected the pieces of her lies like shards of glass cutting deeper each time. Finally, I told her I was going on a short business trip. I kissed her goodbye, smiled, and left. But I didn't go anywhere. I parked 2 streets away and waited. That evening, he showed up at our house. I watched from the shadows as she greeted him with the same smile she once gave me. They went inside, laughing, holding hands, completely unaware that their secret was no longer hidden. I recorded everything. My hands shook as I watched them together in the living room where we used to sit, in the kitchen where we cooked meals. The betrayal wasn't just in her actions, it was in the way she looked at him, the way she gave him the version of herself I thought belonged to me. When I walked back into the house hours later, she was stunned to see me. Her face went pale, and for the first time, she had no story ready. I showed her the footage, the receipts, the undeniable truth. She cried, begged, and made excuses about loneliness and mistakes, but the damage was done. I packed my things that night. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry in front of her. I just left, because some betrayals are too deep to forgive. And as I walked away, I realized something painful but freeing. Sometimes the person you love the most can become the stranger who destroys you. And once trust is broken, there's no rebuilding it, only moving on. I used to believe that love, once built on trust, could survive anything. For years, I thought Rachel and I were solid. We had routines, shared dreams, and even talked about starting a family. But sometimes, betrayal doesn't arrive with a bang, it slips quietly into the cracks you don't even notice forming. It began subtly. Rachel grew distant. She was there physically, but emotionally, she felt like a ghost. Late-night texts she wouldn't explain, sudden work trips that had never been part of her job before, and a constant smile she wore while scrolling through her phone. I tried to ignore it, telling myself stress was to blame. But a gut feeling gnawed at me, refusing to let go. One Friday night, she told me she was going to visit her sister for the weekend. I offered to drive her, but she declined, saying she didn't want to bother me. Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Still, I hugged her goodbye, forcing a smile while my heart twisted with doubt. That evening, unable to shake the unease, I decided to check her location on our shared family app. My breath caught in my chest, she wasn't at her sister's house. She was in the city, at a luxury hotel. I drove there, every mile heavier than the last. In the parking lot, I saw her car. My chest tightened. I walked into the lobby and waited, half hoping I was wrong. Minutes later, the elevator doors opened, and out she came, not alone. She was with a man I had never seen before, their hands brushing, their laughter intimate in a way I hadn't seen from her in months. She looked happy, heartbreakingly happy. I didn't confront her then. I watched them leave together, my world shattering with each step they took. 2 days later, Rachel came home, pretending nothing had happened. She kissed me, asked how my weekend went, and even laughed about her time with her sister. I listened quietly, letting her spin her story. When she finished, I asked softly, "Was the hotel nice?" The way her face dropped told me everything. I didn't need to show her screenshots or proof. Her silence was confession enough. That night, I packed my things. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply walked away from the life I thought was real. Because the harsh truth is this: when someone betrays you, it's not just your heart they break. It's your trust, your memories, and the version of yourself that believed in them. And once that illusion is gone, there's no way back.